Hello and welcome to another episode of RAW Sports, the Quaran-Stream. I am your head of sport, Josh Sim, albeit in a very different setting, as you can see. Um, it's another week, and I think it's the final week where exclusively the Bundesliga has the eyes of the football world upon them. Because next week La Liga will kick off, and we will discuss that briefly at halftime. That and the big Timo Werner story that broke on Thursday, and a lot of other news as well. But thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching us. Obviously, there's a lot of things going on in the world right now, and I'm if you've chosen to watch our stream as kind of light relief or something, a bit of a distraction from that, we thank you so much. So we've got 4 games for you in the Bundesliga. Obviously, there's a big one that we'll come to in a bit. But let's start. Well, we sort of mentioned Timo Werner. Then we'll go into depth a bit about that at halftime. But we can mention his team are in action. So we'll kick off with. We'll come to Luke James first, who the Ball Sports editor, who joins us once again. Luke, thank you for joining us. Obviously Leipzig you would say they're the favourites, aren't they, for this game against Paderborn?
Yeah, they're definitely the favourites. Leipzig haven't been great since the restart, but they've definitely been better than Paderborn. That kind of goes without saying. Leipzig have been getting better week on week, and their lineup's looking pretty strong. So, shall I go for the starting lineup?
Yeah, please do.
So they have already forced to save 2 minutes in, so that's a good start for Leipzig. So they've gone with kind of the usual back four. Starting from up front, they have Patrick Schick and Timo Werner leading the line, with Nkunku and Danny Olmo in midfield. Behind them, they have Campbell and Tyler Adams. So Adams is back in the starting lineup. And then they've got a defence of Tisande, Opacambo, Klosterman, and Mule. And then in goal, they have Lusaki once again, as always. For Paderborn, the travelling side, they are going 4-2-3-1. Starting in goal, they've got Zingerli, who's been pretty good when I've seen him recently. Left back is Collins. Then 2 centre-backs, you have Humanaya and Schrodlik, the central defensive pairing, with Jans out on the right-hand side. In central midfield, you have Gusalea and Vasilidas. And again, Leipzig are really playing well. They look like they might kind of score in the opening minutes, so it's a good start from them. And then the 3 behind the striker, you've got Antwi, Shrabini, Proga, and then up front you have Mamba on his own.
Yeah, so obviously we watched last week, not on this broadcast, but the day after, Paderborn were pretty much torn to shreds by Dortmund, albeit in the second half, because in the first half, that was still a 0-0 game. Paderborn did kind of hold their own, but in the second half, they fell away. Leipzig, you could say, play with a similar intensity to that of Dortmund as well. So do you think we'll see? Do you think it'll be a similar game where Paderborn again kind of defensively at least kind of keep men as far back as they can to kind of hold out for as long as they can, or do you expect Leipzig have the quality enough to really establish a foothold early on in the game?
Definitely. I think the situation in this game is Paderborn desperately to get any points. At the minute, they're 5 points better Bremen and 8 points behind Fortuna Düsseldorf, who are occupying the relegation playoff place. So with very few games left in the season, it really is do or die now for Paderborn. Although they came up and were expected to go straight back down anyway. So it really is going to be a case of trying to make the most of their set pieces, and they've just got a corner on the left-hand side at the moment for Paderborn. For Leipzig, as you say, one of the better teams in the Bundesliga. They're in third at the moment on 59 points, 1 behind Borussia Dortmund. So it should be a game where Leipzig dominate, and in the opening phases, they've really worked well in the central midfield areas. Tyler Adams has looked pretty good for Leipzig. But again, another corner for Paderborn, and they've gone short, which surprised me. They've just kind of try and make the most of it by putting it straight in. So that's been interesting to see.
Yeah, and obviously, this is going to be the third time I drop his name in this stream, but obviously, all eyes are on Timo Werner after the big news came out on Thursday. It's interesting because we've seen players sometimes when a move is sort of announced, sometimes they kind of save themselves for that big move, and sometimes they're. But do you think that'll be any different? Do you think Timo Werner will save himself, or do you think because he does owe a bit to Leipzig for helping his development. Do you think he'll just continue firing in the goals as he's done all season?
Well, based off the first 5 minutes, he's looked pretty lively, so I don't think it's a case of him sitting back. And this is the game as well, where if you look towards the end of the season for Leipzig, this is a game where really they should be winning comfortably, and you'd expect Werner to get a couple of goals. And if he does score today, it kind of sets up the move quite nicely insofar as, okay, you've just announced your big money move to Chelsea, or kind of in the process of doing so. Score a couple of goals at the weekend, everyone's happy, you kind of get the support behind you from Leipzig because you're still playing well, and the Chelsea fans are going to be happy at the same time. And this is a team as well. Paderborn don't have a lot of pace, and it's so often the case that when people talk about Timo Werner, they just talk about him as being someone who's exceptionally quick. He's better than just being quick, but it's the kind of game where he should be able to stretch defenses in behind too.
Yeah, and we will definitely keep an eye on, I'm sure the Chelsea fans will definitely keep an eye on his performance today. Cheers for that, Luke. We will come back to you if anything happens. But yes, we've got Luke James covering RB Leipzig versus Paderborn. Let's switch over to returning face to the RAW Sport team, sidelined for a bit due to essays and deadlines, which is totally understandable. And he marks his triumphant return by coming to watch Fortuna Düsseldorf-Hoffenheim, where Joe Spagnoli, welcome back, first of all.
Well, thank you.
And
we've already got action. I love it. First game back, we're going to get a goal in 5 minutes. I'll talk you through it. It's Ruven Hennings putting Fortuna Düsseldorf ahead inside 5 minutes at home at the Esprit Arena. It's a really interesting cross up from the left, the left wing back, because they're playing with wing backs today, as are Hoffenheim. It goes over the Hoffenheim defence and no one picks it up. It goes past the Hoffenheim deep midfield, taken in by the right-sided forward for Fortuna Düsseldorf, who crosses it across the box. Ruven Hennings is free at the left-hand side corner. Ollie Baumann, he can't predict which way Hennings' header's going to go. He can't get past it. Fortuna take a crucial 1-goal lead at home against Hoffenheim, which could be crucial in their survival chances. I'll go through the lineups just quickly for you. For Fortuna Düsseldorf, the Hessler's side, Kastenmeier starts in goal. A back three of Markus Suttner, who they signed from Brighton last summer, Andre Hoffmann and Ayhan, the other centre-backs, Tomé and Matthias Zimmermann, the wing-backs today. In midfield, they've got Bodcek in between the Lazio loanee Valon Berisha and Kevin Sturger, the two forwards. You've got Karaman and the goal scorer Ruven Hennings, who scored a hat-trick earlier this season against, I believe, FC Schalke, so he's going to be the man in form, the man to watch today for Dusseldorf. For Hoffenheim, Alfred Schroeder's side lineup, Ollie Baumann, probably one of the best goalkeepers ever to not get a national cap in goal. Benjamin Hübner, the captain, alongside Bishakcic and Havam Nordveit in defence. Zuba and Posch, the wing-backs. Diadje Samaseku, the new signing from RB Salzburg, starting in holding midfield, in between Christoph Baumgartner and Sebastian Rudy. Two strikers up front. We've got Monas Tabor, the Israeli striker, and the man that I'm going to be keeping a special eye on today, Robert Skov, the Danish winger, formerly of Copenhagen, who's actually had a pretty decent first season in the Bundesliga, 4 goals already this year. But Hoffenheim behind away from home, which is not good for them when you consider that they're right on the cusp of a European place, up against a Dusseldorf side against which they have rotated pretty heavily, of course. The name that is not in the starting lineup today is Andre Kramaric, the ex-Leicester striker, probably the strongest striker that Hoffenheim have, absolutely not on the pitch today. You could assume that they might bring him on in the second half, but a real shock start to the game on the Rhine.
Yeah, and I watched the Hoffenheim game last week on our last week's broadcast, and they've put themselves in good form. I think they're 3 games unbeaten. They've definitely got some really they're definitely building up some momentum. We'll drop you out for a second because I believe, and we welcome Dami to the stream. Dami, welcome. You're doing Leverkusen by Munich, and you've got news for us already.
Yeah, Oh no, I thought there was a goal, but it seems to have been ruled out for offside. Yeah. So Leverkusen get a throw in on the left hand side. The player throws the ball in. There's some good play down the left hand side, and they managed to get the ball in front. The striker's through on goal. He's 1-on-1 with Manuel Neuer, and he slips it under him in a lovely, nice, composed fashion. But obviously the ref, the linesman has put up his flag for offside. But looking back on it now, I don't. But yet Yep, it's been given. I'm not
It's been
surprised
given.
actually. No, it's been changed. Yeah, it's 1-0 to Bayer Leverkusen. The
Wow.
video assistant referee has overturned it, and I think it's a good decision because on first glance it does look offside. I won't lie, but looking back on it again, you can see that Alario is just a bit onside. Yeah, it's a lovely ball over the top from Aranguiz to Alario. He's down. He's in the left hand channel, and he's 1-on-1 with Neuer, and it's a good finish. I'm not sure if he meant it, but he's kind of used the outside of his right foot, and it's just managed to sneak in at the near post past Manuel Neuer, and it's 1-0 to Bayer Leverkusen. Interestingly enough, Bayern are playing. I mean, yeah, Leverkusen are playing this game without obviously the star man, the man who it's been touted will probably end up at Bayern next season, which is Kai Havertz. He's been ruled out of this game due to injury, but I'll quickly run you through the lineup. So it's Radetzky in goal, a back three of Tapsoba, Bender, and Dragovic. Midfield four consisting of Amiri, Aranguiz, Baumgartler, and Leon Bailey, completed with a front three of Bellarabi, Alario down the middle, and DRB on the left. And like I said, no Kai Havertz, he's out with a muscular injury. While for Bayern, it's the same team that's played for the last two games. So it's Manuel Neuer in goal, still remains the captain. A back four of Pavard, Boateng, Alaba, and the young sensation that is Davis. To midfield two of Joshua Kimmich and Leon Goretzka, accompanied by a front four of Gnabry on the left, Müller in the attacking midfield position, Koeman on the right, and the main man Robert Lewandowski up front. But yes, 11 minutes gone, and it's a shock on the cards here. It's 1-0 to Leverkusen.
Yeah, and we've pretty much since Bayern have come back, they've pretty much been almost perfect. They've not, there's not been much that's kind of put them on in difficulty. But here we are with Leverkusen taking a 1-0 lead, and it's going to be, it would be very interesting. Like you said, they're missing Kai Havertz. Do you think Leverkusen can pull off I wouldn't say it's a shock because they're a good team, but something that I don't think most people were expecting them to lose today. So, do you see a potential victory for Leverkusen on the cards?
I mean, going by what I've seen in these last maybe 8 minutes or so that I've watched, it's on. It's definitely a possibility. But of course, Bayern are strong. They've been in these kind of situations on numerous occasions. They've got that ability to kind of hang in there, even when things are going against them, even when they're under the cosh. They have this tenacity, should I say? I think they showed it really well against Borussia Dortmund, actually, because in that game they were definitely kind of being hounded and definitely under a lot of pressure from Dortmund in that first half. But somehow they managed to hang in there, stayed in the game. Somehow managed to get a goal in that first half, and of course they held on for the win. So I'm not going to be too quick to claim that it's going to be a definite victory for Leverkusen. But from what I'm seeing so far, they're definitely putting themselves in a very good position to claim that victory. So I guess we just have to wait and see.
Yeah, we will, and Dami will be keeping us updated on that game throughout the afternoon. So we'll see you in a bit, Dami. And yeah, if something else happens, we will definitely come back to you. We cut off Joe Spagnoli for Düsseldorf Hoffenheim, but now we come back. We come back to you because there's been more drama happening.
It's just gotten a whole lot worse for TSG Hoffenheim. Alfred Schroeder's side, the captain, Benjamin Hübner, has been sent off in the ninth minute of the game, 1 goal down. The captain sent off for a straight red card for basically an outstretched elbow in the box. I'm not sure which of the Düsseldorf strikers got hit by it, but it is a blatant red card. VAR is what awards it. Nothing from the ensuing corner, but Hoffenheim under serious pressure early on. Are they bottling European chances? Are Düsseldorf just playing well? It's too early in the game to really tell that. But look, they're 1 goal down. They've just lost a centre-back. That'll more or less force them to deploy their wing-backs as full-backs now. A lot of the sting will have been cut out of Hoffenheim's tail, and without a lot of starting players on the pitch, it's really not looking good for them so far. Düsseldorf could just be about to crawl out of this relegation battle.
Yeah, I'm just looking this up. I believe Benjamin Hübner was sent off during their game against Cologne only not the last game, but the game beforehand. So he's just come back from a one-match ban, and now he's pretty much ensured he'll be suspended for the next game and maybe more. I have no idea, but that's that's you talk about the mindset of players who return from suspension, and suddenly he's now found himself with just 15 minutes, and now he's off again.
Exactly, and if you look at the depth chart at TSG Hoffenheim, centre-back is one of the positions where they're thinnest. It's surprising that they're actually playing three at the back today against Dusseldorf, but this situation just got a whole lot worse for Alfred Schroeder's side. Again, it was a really silly challenge to make. With VAR in the Esprit Arena, that's going to be given as a straight red card. Hübner just put under pressure earlier on, much like he was put under pressure for the first goal, actually. Samaseko didn't close down his man, and it was Stoger, the midfielder, I correct myself earlier, Stoger with the assist into Ruven Hennings. Hübner was one of the offending parties in that as well, so a shocking start to the game for the captain, and now Hoffenheim without their leading figure, with 75 minutes of the game left to play. I'm not going to say this is going to be a washout at the Esprit Arena, but this just got a whole lot harder. And I was going into this game pretty certain that Hoffenheim were going to pick up a victory on the road, Josh.
Yeah, I've watched Hoffenheim for their last two games. I've grown to like that side a lot. I really like Christoph Baumgartner and their midfield. He's been very good for them, but
we've got a goal. Just as I say that, we have a goal for Hoffenheim, a set piece, which goes all the way to the far post. I'm trying to find the player responsible for scoring it. The update hasn't come through just yet. It's Munas de Boer, the Israeli striker, 16th minute equalising. So Hoffenheim have gotten back on level terms today. So yeah, all of my doomsday mongering from about a minute ago can just be crossed out. It's really poor set piece defending by Dusseldorf. It must be said, the number 25 isolated by the far post. The shot initially comes in, I think, from Robert Skov, saved by Kastermann in the Dusseldorf goal, but it comes down to Bishakcic and then down to Munas de Boer. Goalkeeper doesn't stand a chance. Dusseldorf 1, Hoffenheim 1 on the Rhineland.
You know what? If someone had asked me which game is going to produce the most drama and goals, I would not really have picked Dusseldorf Hoffenheim, but there we go. I mean, because they are two teams. I mean, Dusseldorf obviously have a lot to play for in the relegation battle, so this will come as a blow to them. And maybe this is now. Do you think this is now a game that they should go on to win? Like, that is, if they want to survive the drop zone, this is a game that they have to pick up 3 points in.
When the opposition loses a centre-back who is also the captain and who is also one of the better defensive players on the pitch, you really need to take advantage of those situations. And in the immediate aftermath of Hübner getting sent off, it looked like Dusseldorf had the upper hand. But like I say, it is just a set piece from quite a long way out, expertly delivered by Hoffenheim. Yeah, I would have expected Dusseldorf to go on and win this, but right now, obviously the balance has completely shifted. I can't give you a favourite at this stage. I would have said Hoffenheim before the game started, but again, they are a man down. Saying that, though, they have literally just equalised away from home. So I'm going to say this right now, Josh. I might have just picked the best game of the day.
It's interesting because they are two teams on the opposite end of the spectrum. They have things to play for on opposite ends. What's happened?
There's another goal. Fortuna Dusseldorf have just taken the lead. Again, it's a crossover. This is absolutely ridiculous. In the 18th minute, is that Ruven Hennings with his second goal of the day? It could well be. It might be disallowed. I'm not entirely sure. Okay. But right now, it's still standing on the screen that I'm seeing. You got Posch down on the ground. Baumann looking absolutely desperate. The Hoffenheim goalkeeper. Right now, I'm just going to see it like the build-up. So Dusseldorf, as you'd expect, playing extremely high. It goes out to the wing-back who controls it expertly with an outstretched foot. And then it's a fantastic cross deflected off what looks like one of the Hoffenheim centre-backs, remaining centre-backs. I think it's Havar Nordveit. Bounces over, and who's at the far post? Ruven Hennings, completely free again. Yeah, at this moment in time, Dusseldorf lead this game 2-1 at the Esprit Arena. Action is back on. We may have a goal fest here, and no one would have expected that.
I mean, it goes to show, I guess, the willingness to attack for whatever team, even if it's Dusseldorf who are kind of trying to ensure survival here. They are pushing up all of their men and going for a win here. That's a fascinating start. 3 goals in the first 20 minutes or so. I don't think anyone or many people would have predicted that. So, if you're the Dusseldorf manager, and I'm trying to find his name. I believe it's
the Hessler.
Yeah. Okay. If you are This is if you are the Düsseldorf manager, and I'm going to get this name. Yeah. Rosler, I think. Rosler, I think. Yeah. Do you what do you tell your players now? Do you just keep going and attacking and try to score more goals, but then risk being vulnerable to a counter attack, because that is kind of what Hoffenheim's, at least when I watched them a few weeks ago, that's their strength, attacking on the counter attack. So what do you tell your players now?
I feel like it is using the man advantage and trying to defend, hold a 1-goal lead, potentially limit set pieces for Hoffenheim, where, as far as I'm aware, they are quite strong, not just in this game. I'm saying this though, Josh, and the referee has just checked the VAR. Has the goal just been disallowed? I'm just going to check this now. It was an extended VAR check. I have a feeling the second Fortuna Düsseldorf goal may have just been disallowed on the grounds of ball to elbow.
What is your, because you watched that goal obviously, did you spot any potential for an offside in the build-up?
It didn't look like an offside. I think it's contact on the elbows, the gesture that the referee made. And I have no goal. A previous foul is the judgment from the video assistant referee. I have a feeling that would be the Düsseldorf player that was in amongst the centre-backs, who then brought the ball onto Reuven Hennings at the far post. So the goal has been disallowed. 1-1 at the Esprit Arena. God, this game is exciting so far.
I mean, you've had 2 goals, a disallowed goal, and a red card. I mean, there's not much more you can ask for as a neutral. We will see. I have a feeling there's more to come from this game. So we will see what happens. We'll come back to Joe Spagnoli in a bit, but there we go. The other game that I'm sort of de facto covering, but not as intensely per se, is Eintracht Frankfurt. They are hosting Mainz this afternoon. I will quickly run through the lines. You got Kevin Trapp in goal, the former PSG goalkeeper. You got Ilsanker, who scored twice for them against Werder Bremen on Wednesday night. He's in the back three with Hasabi and Hinteregger, the man who is some have called him the Lewis Dunk of the Premier League. I don't know about that, but he's definitely got a lot of goals from his defensive spot. You have Toure as the right wing back, if you like. Filip Kostic on the left, and then Korn Rode in the centre midfield. Just ahead of them is Kamada, who's been really good for Frankfurt, and then up front duo of Bas Dost and Andre Silva. And then if you look at the Mainz lineup, we've got Müller in goal. You got Wien, Sint-Just, Niakate, and Brusinski as your back four. A defensive midfield pivot duo of Ladza and Leandro Barrero, and then just ahead of that pair, you've got Ostinelli, Robin Quaison, and Taiwo Awani. And then up front, leading the lineup by himself, is Mateta. So there we go. Those are the lineups for Frankfurt versus Mainz. That game is still 0-0, but I will, keep you sort of updated if anything major in that game happens. But as we said, we've got coverage of the 4 Bundesliga games. This is the last week, as I said, where exclusively the Bundesliga will be played. As next week we've got La Liga coming back, so we will discuss. Coming up at halftime, we will discuss a bit about La Liga's return. We will discuss, obviously, the big Timo Werner news that dropped on Thursday night. And then we will probably do a little bit of a roundup of the major news that's going on. Obviously, with the current events that's going on in the world right now, a lot of athletes have spoken up and spoken about it, and some have made a mess with their comments, shall we say. I don't know how much into depth we'll go on that, but yeah, there's definitely if we're running out of time, we will definitely kind of mention those events. And I'm hoping that I know players get booked if they show an undershirt message. I'm hoping no one does this week. I'm hoping people show those messages and don't get booked for them. Rather, I hope no one faces the consequences of that. And there we go. So 4 games so far. Quick score update. Leipzig drawing 0-0 at home to Paderborn. Leverkusen 1-0 up against Bayern Munich. Frankfurt 0-0 at home to Mainz. And as we talked about with Joe Spagnoli, it is 1-1 between Düsseldorf and Hoffenheim. The visitors are down to 10 men. So let's go back to, I think, the game that most people are probably watching. That's Leverkusen, Bayern Munich. So let's come to Dami. Dami, have you seen a change in how Bayern Munich have approached the game? Have you seen anything that might suggest they may, get an equalizer before halftime, or have Leverkusen
No,
the storm?
for sure. No, Bayern have definitely stepped it up. They've been on the ascendancy. They're definitely starting to pose more of an attacking threat than they did unlike in the first 10 minutes of the game. To be fair, they even nearly scored just a few minutes ago. So the ball comes to a man who's been in fantastic form lately and had a great season, to be honest, which is Thomas Muller. He gets the ball just on the edge of the box. He's got a bit of space. He's kind of, twinkling about, not quite sure what to do with it. Brings the ball back onto his left foot. He's just able to put in a lovely little dink ball over the head of the Leverkusen defenders. Oh, he's in again? No, not quite. Couldn't quite bring the ball down. But yes, he's able to put a lovely dink ball over the top. It finds the main man, Robert Lewandowski, but the ball's just a bit too far ahead of him. So he's trying to stretch to control it, but he's not able to do so. But yet he can't quite control it. But the ball falls down to Kingsley Coman, who heads it back across the face of goal to Lewandowski. Because he's already on the floor, he's not able to generate enough power to head it into what is more or less an empty net. And yeah, the ball kind of just trickles its way towards the goal. But the goalkeeper, Radeski's managed to able to pick it up. But yes, Bayern definitely posing more of a threat. And who knows, they might be able to get this equalizer just before halftime as well. They still got another 25 minutes to go. Oh,
Yeah,
is he in?
What, Luke?
If the comments in right now, is one of the goalkeeper, and it's a goal.
Wow, we have two.
Yeah,
I've got James because we've got a goal in the Leipzig game as well. So let's quickly go through the Leipzig goal, Luke, because I think that one came first. Leipzig have taken the lead, I believe.
Yeah, so 1-0 for Leipzig now on 27 minutes. It was a really, really well-worked goal. So the play started in their own half. Tyler Adams picked up the ball between the two centre-halves, kind of strolled into the paddle half, played through Nkunku, who had kind of a nice pass into the space in behind to Timo Werner, again, playing pretty well today despite the transfer interest from Chelsea, who plays a nice one-touch pass across the face of the goal to Patrick Schick, who, to be honest, would have been harder to miss than score. So yeah, it was a good goal. It was marginally close to being offside, but yeah, decision was correct. And it is 1-0 to RB Leipzig.
Yeah, and we'll come back. I'll bring you in a bit, and we can discuss the game more in depth in a bit. But as we then saw, Dami, you've got a goal in your game as well.
Yes, it's Kingsley Coman with his third goal of the season. It all comes from a turnover possession, actually. So DRB loses the ball in midfield from Bayern Leon Goretzka. As soon as Goretzka gets the ball, Bayern are straight on the attack. He gets the ball, looks up, finds Kingsley Coman run into a bit of space. It's a lovely through ball, a lovely defense splitting pass. He puts in Kingsley Coman. Now he's 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper. The question is, does he have the composure to finish it, to put the ball in the back of the net? And he does. He gets the ball, he steadies himself, composes himself, and just kind of curves it around the goalkeeper into the far corner. And yes, just as I expected, and as the pressure is mounting, Bayern have gotten their equalizer. So it's 1-1.
Yeah, so there we go. Bayern. We talked about whether Bayern had a response in them before halftime, and there we go. We see it. Kingsley Coman, interesting. I mean, he's been linked with a move away, not by his fault. I think it's because we know Leroy Sané has been moved back to Bayern, and someone might have to go as a result. And Kingsley Coman's been a name mentioned in that. Has he shown to you that he has I don't want to say he has a future at Bayern, because obviously he's good enough for Bayern, but has he shown to you that he can still be a key figure for them going forward?
I mean, if I'm being honest, I'm not really sold on Kingsley Coman. I don't really believe he is quite good enough for Bayern. If Bayern really want to be this force, because they're already a force in Germany, they probably always will be. But if they want to be this, powerhouse and return back to the mid-glory days of the 70s, where they were winning the European Cup more or less year after year, then I believe that's another position where they could strengthen, I think the issue with Koeman is more that he's got the pace, he's got the trickery, but it's the end product. I mean, for instance, that's only his third goal of the season. And I'm sorry to say, but in the way football is nowadays, where your wide forwards are more or less as equally important in terms of scoring goals as your central striker, then 3 goals isn't quite good enough for a return for you to kind of stake a claim to be in a team like Bayern. I mean, you look at like Liverpool, how many goals do Mane and Salah have? Wide forwards there's more emphasis on them to get more goals now, get more end product. And, Kingsley Coman just doesn't quite do that on a regular enough basis. One game he'll have a fantastic game, then he'll go quiet for maybe the next 3 games, then he'll come back again. And it's just a bit up and down for Bayern's liking. I'm probably sure that's what the people at the top are thinking. So yes, if they can get someone like Leroy Sané on their books, then I have no doubt they wouldn't hesitate in possibly offloading Kingsley Coman. But at the same time, Coman would be perfect for another team, maybe a team just below Bayern, maybe even somewhere in the Premier League, possibly like a Chelsea, or maybe like a Spurs, those kind of teams who are trying to break into the European power slash elites, as you could say. So possibly that's where his level is, if I'm being honest with you, but still not a bad level at the same time.
And he is still 23 years old, so there's definitely still more to him.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you forget that.
But well, he's shown it today. He's still got plenty in him, and he equalizes. He gets a very crucial goal to equalize for Bayern against Leverkusen. So that game is 1-1. Damian will come back to you in a bit, and we'll bring back Luke James, who we got the goal update from you, and then we went off. Now we're back. Leipzig obviously scored through Patrick Schick. Do you think did they deserve to go 1-0 up in the first half?
Yeah, definitely. Leipzig have been the better team. They've kind of controlled the possession. They've looked pretty good. Although before the goal, there wasn't really that many chances. In terms of the things that I've had kind of noted down, there have been a couple of yellow cards. Gasula has or kind of tied for the highest number of yellow cards in a single season in the Bundesliga. He's now on 16 yellow cards. So if you're a fan of bookings, then that's something for you. But yeah, not too much has actually happened in the game so far. Timo Werner's looked lively. He's just kind of a couple of minutes ago had a good crosser, a good kind of ball across the face of the goal that no one was able to get on the end of. But the only real thing to take away from the game so far is that Leipzig, and again, will shock no one, very, very good on the attack, kind of building plays very, very quickly, and they're moving the ball from side to side pretty well. Paderborn, though, to be fair, Stefan Baumgart's side look pretty good defensively. They're holding the shape well. The 2 defensive midfielders are sitting and kind of breaking up the play quite nicely. So throughout the game, I wouldn't be surprised if this was quite low scoring and kind of ended 1 or 2-0, to be honest.
Yeah, and I'll get up the table up in a bit, but basically they are just a point behind Dortmund, so they really just need to get the job done, really get those 3 points, and continue. You look at you mentioned Paderborn and defensively how they are holding up, but do you think there's much in their attack to think that they could find a way back into this game, or has losing that early goal now thrown a spanner in the works to their game plan?
They've not really created much so far. About 2 or 3 minutes ago, Proger had a shot that he sliced pretty kind of abysmally quite wide. So they've had a couple of shots like that, but they've not really created too much. I feel like, and again, Paderborn kind of going into the attacking areas and into the final third, they need to use their pace because they've got a couple of players out wide who are pretty quick, and Mamba, who's leading the line for them, is pretty fast as well. So if they're able to counter-attack and kind of break on Leipzig, kind of play Leipzig at their own game, it could be interesting. But in terms of possession play, it's not looking kind of too good. Again, they've just sent a really long ball forwards towards Proger, and it's kind of come to nothing. Kind of one thing to point out as well is Upamecano is on a yellow card. He was given a yellow card in 15 minutes for a tackle on Shabrini. So basically what happened, it was a ball over the top. It was a really nice pass down kind of the right-hand side of the pitch. Upamecano's got a touch on it, but the forward Mamba, Shabrini, has kind of got in front of him and he's just nicked him. there were some shouts for it to be a red card. It was never going to be a red card. It was too far kind of away from the goal for it to be a clear and obvious goal scoring opportunity. But yeah, Paderborn need to kind of exploit the moments in the transitions, because that's when defensively Julian Nagelsmann's side are most vulnerable.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm looking at the bottom of the table. They are 5 points behind Werder Bremen. And you watched Werder Bremen last week, in fact, so you saw that they actually put a pretty good performance together to beat Schalke. Obviously, Schalke in a bit of free fall, but they did the job. They got the 3 points, and yeah, it definitely looks like Paderborn need to get, if not this game, and I know we've talked about they're not expected to win this game by any means, but time's running out for them. Essentially, time is running out to get themselves out of the drop zone. So we will come back to Luke James. Thank you for that, talking us through that. Oh boy, there we go. Talking us through that game. A little bit of technical difficulties. Me just clicking wrong buttons. So there we go. We have goals in all. 3 of the 4 games. Frankfurt Mainz, I am saddened to report, is still goalless. And in fact, if you go on the Bundesliga website and look at their live text feed, they have literally written nothing since kickoff. So that says a lot about that game. But yeah, we've got goals in every other game, which is great. And 2 of the games are affecting the top of the table, and one that is a big one for the bottom. So definitely some stakes are needed in this game. And obviously for the ones at the top, they'll be looking to capitalize on Mönchengladbach's defeat last night, as they lost 1-0 at Freiburg. Alassane Play was sent off, and it was Niels Petersen who came off the bench and scored there. So that was a big result again. That just that keeps me, as I think the Raw Sports Twitter account said, there's a lot of twists and turns left to go in this Bundesliga season, for sure. So we will come back to, I think it's we've got about 10 minutes or so as a half, 7 minutes or so. Let's jump back to Joe Spagnoli and just see, has the game calmed down a bit? Have we got a bit of a sense of has there been a regression, or we still got this kind of high intensity, both teams willing to just go for the jugular here?
If anything, Josh, I think the disallowed goal and the red card for Benjamin Hübner has made both teams up the intensity a little bit, but there is no question that Fortuna Düsseldorf are the team ahead in this game. Karaman and Hennings look consistently dangerous up front, and the midfield's linking very well with them as well. I'd like to have given a special shout out, actually. I'm sick of complimenting this team this year, but the Lazio loanee Valon Berisha has been very progressive in this game, almost playing off the 2 strikers at times. He's had a couple of long shots very, very nearly going underneath the crossbar of Oliver Baumann. He's had a really, really good first half as a counterbalance to Diadier Samaseko, who, as the commentator was saying a couple of minutes ago, really hasn't gotten into the game that much, the holding midfielder for Hoffenheim. Dusseldorf, this is an exercise in, and I don't want to say giant killing, because of course they're not ahead, despite the fact it feels like it with that second Hennings goal. But there's no question they've been the superior team so far. Defensively, look a lot more ready for it. But the way I could describe this game, and it applies to both teams, is expansive. The center of play just seems to be changing all the time. It's not even end to end. It just seems like there isn't a blade of grass on the pitch that hasn't seen action so far. Defense is consistently shifting over. That's what you'll get with 3 at the back formations, of course. A thoroughly absorbing game so far. I want to say Dusseldorf are going to come out on top, but you don't know what the dynamic's going to be in the second half. Schroeder will have something to say to his players, no doubt. Fantastic game at the Esprit Arena so far. Yeah,
and you mentioned Rowan Hennings. He is now gone 4th in the goal scoring charts at the moment, just behind, not just behind, but the players that only Werner, Lewandowski and Sancho have scored more goals than him, I believe. Yeah. So he's in very good company. And as you said, Dusseldorf seem to be taking the ascendancy in this game, which is, that is, I don't want to say that's predictable, but we've seen teams sometimes struggle to break down 10 men, especially when you've got them mostly behind the ball. But that doesn't seem to be the case in this game. It looks like, as you said, Dusseldorf seem to be able to cope with that challenge pretty admirably.
Yeah, I mean, if I was a Hoffenheim defender, not just Ruven Hennings, I would be sick of the sight of Valon Berisha, how close he gets to the box and the shots that he's putting so close over. If he keeps up with them, I really do think he will get what would be, I believe, his first goal for Fortuna Dusseldorf on loan from Lazio this year. Yeah, it's really just credit Fortuna Dusseldorf. I wasn't expecting Rossler's side to come out like this, especially considering Hoffenheim have actually done very well on the road this year. They've only lost 3 in 14. They've won as many games on the road as they have at home. So this isn't a team that gets stage fright on the road. But Dusseldorf today, making it a contest, still 1-1. But like I said earlier, it feels like Dusseldorf is ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just gonna say quickly, I've just refreshed the Frankfurt Mainz feed, and they've updated it for a yellow card, which is the only major thing that seems to have happened in that game, which isn't great. But luckily, no one here is covering that game. I'm just sporadically watching it. But we will come back to you, Joe. Thanks for that update, and let's go back to Leverkusen Munich. Let's go back and talk to Dami. Let's check in. Dami, Munich obviously came back. Coman scored the equalizer.
Mhm.
Where's this game now in terms of the balance? Is Bayern kind of wrestled back control? Have Leverkusen fought back? Where are we in terms of the balance of the game?
I think Leverkusen have done well to kind of bring themselves back into the game. You know, they've managed to at least just gain. They've not really posed a threat, but they've managed to gain just a bit more control. You know, just to get a bit more possession, slow down the tide. Or here's a chance for Bayern. It's Muller. It's a goal. It's a goal.
Go!
It's a goal. Yes, it's a goal. It's a goal for Bayern, and it's come courtesy of Leon Goretzka.
Oh,
Yes,
wow.
it's come from Leon Goretzka. And it all comes, again, a turnover of possession straight from Leverkusen's corner, actually. So they have a corner. I think Aaron Geese tries to head it back into the penalty area, but he heads it towards Goretzka. He gets the ball. Now he drives out of that crowded penalty box. Bayern get the ball. There's a bit of build up here. Then there's a lovely interplay between I think Kingsley Coman and Thomas Muller. So Coman gets the ball's played into him, he flicks it into the path of Muller. Muller gets the ball, he's driving towards the Leverkusen defense. He's able to place the pass into Goretzka. Goretzka, I think he's mainly right-footed, so the ball's on his right foot, but you would have thought he would try. No, the ball's on his left foot, sorry, but you'd have thought he would try and bring it back onto his right foot. But instead, he decides not to and just decides to have a swing with his left foot, and it turns out to be a very, very good decision. Of course, the ball goes into the far corner, and Radetzky gets a fingertip to, but it's not enough, and it just somehow managed to trickle its way right into the side netting. And yes, it's 2-1 to Bayern. Again, both goals have come from a turnover of possession from Leverkusen. So 3 minutes remaining of this half. We'll see what Leverkusen can do now.
Yeah, and now it's on them to kind of really push for an equalizer here and get a breakthrough. We've got some other events going on, so we'll come back to you, Dami, in a bit. Luke James, you've got news to bring us from the Leipzig Paderborn game.
Yeah, I've just seen the most ridiculous sending off from a really, really good player I've seen for quite some time. So Upamecano, who was given a yellow card earlier in the game, has just been sent off for a second yellow. I'm not too sure which of the two events he was given the second yellow for, but basically what happened, he was grappling kind of on the halfway line with Mamba. Play was stopped. I'm not sure if that was enough to give him the yellow card, and then he kicked the ball away. So whether it was for pulling someone's shirt on the halfway line, which was just ludicrous to do in the first place, or for kicking the ball away, either way, he's been sent off on 40-odd minutes, which is just such a shame because he's normally such a good player. But kind of for some reason in the first half, it's just not gone for him at the moment. In terms of Leipzig's shape as we go forwards, Tyler Adams has dropped into centre half, and I think he'll just play out the half until half time. But yeah, a really strange spell of the game there where Leipzig were dominating. There was no need to commit the foul, but things happen.
Yeah, and I mean that is that is now it put Leipzig in an interesting position because now they're down to 10 men, but they've got a 1 goal lead. So what do you think? Well, I mean, obviously you've got a small sample size of the first half, but do you think Paderborn are able to maybe make a breakthrough with the now with 10 men in to beat basically, or are Leipzig still got enough quality to kind of ease out and kind of see the game out?
I think it will really depend on how Leipzig approach the rest of the game. If Leipzig can do attack and press high and kind of try to build play quickly, I think Paderborn will still struggle. But if Leipzig start to kind of slow the tempo of the game down, both in and out of possession, it will get interesting for Paderborn, because Paderborn already kind of, it's only been a couple of minutes since the sending off, but they're already starting to press a little bit higher. The defensive line is edging close to the halfway line. They're still playing quite kind of a mid to deep block anyway. But in the second half, I think Paderborn, what they really need to do is they need to kind of make the pitch as big as possible. They need to get Proger, who's kind of playing off the right shoulder of the forward for them, kind of into more space, match him up against Angelino on the left-hand side for Leipzig, and just try and stretch the play more. I think that is where kind of Paderborn could have some glory if they are going to make anything in the second half.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hate to cut you off, Luke, but we've got another goal in another game. So let's bring in Dammy. You've got a goal, and is it Leverkusen equalizer or is it another Bayern goal?
No, I wish I could say it was a Leverkusen equalizer, but it's another Bayern goal, and I think that is probably game dusted right now. Yes, it's
really?
3-1 to it's 3-1 to Bayern, and it's been a complete capitulation here from Leverkusen in the last 5 minutes. You'd have thought, okay, going to halftime 1-1, it's okay, we can regroup and get back, but now they'll be going in 3-1 down. It's funny because literally just like a minute before that, Serge Gnabry had a chance actually to score earlier on. It's a lovely through ball that's played into him. He's through one-on-one with the goalkeeper, but he takes his time, and he's not able to find any of the corners. But to be fair, it's a good save from Wadecki. He stands up tall, doesn't go down too early, and his outstretched legs stops it from going in. But literally almost like a minute later from that, the ball, Bayern get a free kick on the edge of their own box. They take it short. Ball falls to Joshua Kimmich, and I don't think the Leverkusen defense are switched on, because Kimmich gets the ball, looks up, and just plays a lovely ball over the top into the path of this Serge Gnabry again. This time the finish is made a bit easier for him because Wadecki decides to come out this time, and as the ball's bouncing, obviously it makes the decision much easier for Gnabry this time, and they just lift the ball over Wadecki's head, and the ball goes into an empty net. And so, yes, halftime here, as the halftime whistle just gone, it's 3-1 to Bayern. And it's just, I don't understand why so many teams in the Bundesliga play such a high line. I mean, I see this mistake happen literally time and time again, and it's almost like they don't want to change. They all play such a high line to the point where you'd think maybe the game is like the 80th minute and they're going, or maybe the 80-something minute and they're going for like an equalizer, but it's not even the second half yet. And they're playing such a high line, pushing so many players up that it just makes it easy for Bayern to just to pick them off. But like I said, it's not just a Leverkusen issue, so it's the issue of the rest of the Bundesliga actually, which is why sometimes when some people are doing well in the Bundesliga, e.g. Sancho, Gnabry, and whatnot, you have to take it with a pinch of salt, because you have to be like, I won't lie, a bit of the defending in the Bundesliga is a bit suspect, but nonetheless, it's 3-1 to Bayern here. So.
Yeah. I think back to when we had Bundesliga journalist Chris Williams on a few weeks ago, and he talked about how Leverkusen can be very attacking on one end and just very exposed at the back as well. They kind of just their mantra is to score more goals than you, and we'll forget about the defense. We'll work on that later. So it seems to have shown in that game, and we'll come to you at halftime in just a bit. I'm just gonna run through a score update. I think all games are now at halftime, so we'll do quickly a score update. As Dammy just told us, Bayern Munich 3-1 up at Leverkusen, thanks to goals from Koman, Goretzka, and Gnabry in response to Lucas Alaria's opener. Mainz lead 1-0 away at Eintracht Frankfurt. Niakate did get a goal just before half time, so that's potentially a big goal for Mainz in terms of getting out of that putting distance between themselves and the bottom three. As we spoke to Joe Spagnoli, he had a frantic start, but Dusseldorf have taken control, and it's one, but they've not made their one-man advantage count. It is 1-1 in that game, and as we talked to Luke James earlier, Leipzig 1-0 up, although a little bit nervy now that Upamecano's been sent off, the late kickoff being Dortmund at home to Hertha Berlin, and we can definitely discuss a bit of that in a bit. In the Zwei Bundesliga, you had Arminia Bielefeld held 1-1 at home by Nuremberg. Jan Regensburg they got a 3-0 win at Darmstadt. Big win for them. And in the other game, Dynamo Dresden picked up a 3-2 win, including an 89th-minute winner from Mackinock at Wern Reisberg. I'm hoping I probably pronounced these terribly, but there you go. They picked up a 3-2 win there. And then in terms of, obviously, there are a lot more football leagues coming back. So later on, the Austrian League, there are 3 games at 4 p.m. The Greek League is back. The Israeli Premier League, as we noted last week, that's back as well. So those 3 leagues are back. I'm just looking to see if there are any more leagues. The Costa Rican Primera Division is also back. So there you go. 4 leagues of football are back as the kind of world of football seems to come back. So let's bring in our full panel. Let's bring in Joe Spagnoli, Luke James, and Dami. And we will talk about your games once those games start again and what you expect for the second half. But we'll do a little bit of news now, and I think, before news, we'll do a mini preview, should we say? Because the Bundesliga, as we ran through all those other leagues, football's starting to come back, and the next big 5 league to come back, if you like, is La Liga. La Liga is coming back on. Is it Thursday night? I think it is Thursday night. To my knowledge, I think it's the Seville derby. I know that for sure. I think it's the 11th of June, which is a Thursday night. Yep. And they are staggering all their games across every day, pretty much, which is going to be an interesting one for broadcasters. Certainly, like our stream, it's going to be very interesting to cover. But we look at the La Liga table. Barcelona have a slight edge over Real Madrid. Luke James, is that the? There's obviously storylines across the whole league, as we talked about with Luke Edwards last week. But Barca Real Madrid, that'll probably be the big headline story, wouldn't it? That 2-horse race going all the way to possibly the end of the season.
Yeah, definitely. So Barcelona at the minute are top on 58 points. Real Madrid are second behind them on 56 points, which is always interesting. Of course, it's a little bit different now, the dynamic in El Clásicos and kind of the rivalry between Barcelona and Real Madrid without Cristiano Ronaldo at the club. But one thing that will be interesting as well is after the season resumes, you'll have obviously Eden Hazard coming back into fitness, which should be really, really interesting to see for Real Madrid. And another thing that I think is going to be really, really interesting is the battle between 3rd and pretty much all the way down to 7th. There's only 4 points between those teams. So in terms of getting in the Champions League as well, it'll be really interesting kind of going into the final games of the season.
Yeah, Joe, you and Luke obviously cover it a lot on Eurozone podcast, which last week he talked to Luke. He said there are more episodes hopefully coming, so that should be exciting. As you and Luke have kind of covered it a lot in depth, what stands out to you as someone who's watched the league throughout the season? What are you looking forward to?
Well, Luke's already alluded to the first big talking point aside from the El Clasico title race, which is the battle for the top 4. La Liga, historically in the last few years, it's never really decided until the last couple of games. We've still got as many as 11 left, so you could realistically see anyone from Sevilla, from Atletico Madrid, from Getafe, even down to Valencia getting those 3rd and 4th Champions League spots. And to be honest, looking at the European forms of these teams this year, I think any of them would do a pretty damn good job. So that no worries there. You've got an awful lot of really good teams battling for Champions League positions in La Liga. Again, some other stories. Talk about the team that really shocked us at the beginning of the season. Granada still in the top 10, playing fantastically in their first season back in the top division. Osasuna in 10th. Can they make the top half of the table if Athletic Club Bilbao have what's kind of becoming a regular second half of the season slump for them? The bit of the table that I'm interested in, simply because it means that we will lose at least one really good side going into next season, is the battle against relegation. Luke and I have covered this a lot. Realistically, any team, Valladolid in 15th down, has a chance of going down this year, who will get that? Who will go down in that last position of Valladolid, Eibar, Celta Vigo, and Mallorca? Four very different clubs playing very different ways, all of which have been, I dare say, very impressive this season in their own way. Leganes and Espanyol in 19th and 20th. I have a feeling like they're going down. Espanyol really not taking advantage of all the money that they spent in January. Leganes, meanwhile, basically screwed over by the RAFF. With Martin Braithwaite being taken from them by Barcelona, can't expect they'll survive. But the relegation battle is in and of itself a massive storyline in La Liga. Who else is going down? I still think Mallorca, but there's 11 games left to go in La Liga. Literally anything can happen. This is the same Mallorca side that beat Real Madrid earlier in the season, let's not forget.
Yeah, and so plenty to look forward to at La Liga, and we'll be covering it as much as we can on our socials, which I'll just drop a link down here. Before we get into other news, Luke, James, and Dami, you guys came together to make a special RAW Sport episode podcast where you talked about Dami's documentary that we mentioned last week. And I know, is it Luke? You'll be able to plug this better than I will, but you've got a feature article coming to the BOR sometime soon.
Yep. So on Monday, it's being published at Monday at midnight. There's going to be a feature-length article interview with myself and Dami, where we talk about kind of 419 FC, Dami's team, and we touch upon the things that we talk about in the interview, which you can listen to in full, and it's available, the RAW Sport podcast, on Spotify and Anchor. Yeah,
and I would recommend you guys go check it out. I watched a documentary recently. It's really good. It's really, really well done. So props to you, Dami, and for your team for getting it together. And in terms of, Joe, we talked about Eurozone. In terms of what I have to plug, well, we've got an interview next Wednesday. We're doing a live stream interview on Facebook. More details to come, so just keep an eye on our socials. We will plug that coming up. But yeah, it'll be I'm very excited for this interview. I'm very excited to talk to this guest. So yeah, keep an eye on that. And speaking of things that, and speaking of big news and things that were interviews, obviously I've got a few more interviews coming up. Agreed in principle, and this is a very weird link now that I think about it. But let's just talk about Timo Werner, Chelsea. Goodness. Drops out of nowhere. I don't think many of us had penciled Chelsea as likely destination, but that's what has happened. Dami, what was your reaction when you saw the news? What was your first honest reaction? And then as you've had a few days now to think about it, what are your thoughts on the transfer?
To be honest, at first I was just happy because anything other than Tammy Abraham is a bonus for me. I'm sorry, but I've had enough of seeing Tammy lead our front line. Don't get me wrong, I love the guy. He's a great guy. He's got the lovely story of being at the youth academy from I don't know how young he was, working his way up to the front team. The first team, and it's all lovely and nice and yada yada yada. But when it comes to the main crux of it, he's not good enough, to lead my team. I'm sorry. He's done well, but he's not what we need if we really want to, push on to the next level. So for me, anything coming in is a bonus. Timo Werner, he's probably, I don't know. I like him. Don't get me wrong. He's a fantastic player. He's a great player. He probably wouldn't have been my first choice that I would have gone for. In terms of the profile that we were looking for. Obviously, I think with the way he plays, and it says that he's definitely he's definitely a runner. He thrives off big spaces in behind the defense. He also loves to roam as well, very much so. A lot of the times when I've seen him play, he usually starts a lot of his runs from the kind of left-hand channel. So he's more or less like a striker / left winger. In a sense, he doesn't really have a fixed position. I'm not sure how that will work within the Chelsea team here, because we do have some quite at least decent enough wingers, and I'm not sure if him coming down that side would possibly cause a bit too much of an overload. I feel we should probably have gone maybe in the profile more of like a Diego Costa. I mean, he doesn't have to play like him, but someone who can hold the ball up well, who's got good link on play, but also at the same time, he's prolific, can score goals on a regular occasion, and has shown to be able to do so. So he might not have been my first choice, but then when I look at it again in terms of his age, his ability, also the amount that we're paying for him as well. I mean, in this day and age, I feel like paying 49 million, I think, for someone who's scored 31 goals in total this season. I think it's quite a bargain, especially when you consider that I think in a few weeks' time we'll be getting 58 million from Atletico Madrid for the sale of Alvaro Morata as well. Then all in all, then to be fair, in that sense, then I can be like, actually, you know what, it's not that bad of a deal. I mean, if it doesn't work out as great as we think it could work out, then he's still young and there's still definitely a very good resellable kind of price for him as well. So I think overall I would probably give it, I think, a 7 out of 10, possibly even an 8 in terms of how well the signing fits us as a club. But it will be kind of interesting to see how he does fit into the team next year for sure.
Yeah, and Luke James, you've obviously been watching him for the last 45 minutes. I don't think many would question that. I mean, he obviously fits in the Premier League. Like his style of play, you can see him being a good fit in the league. I think it's more the interesting thing is whether do Chelsea need him per se, because obviously, I mean, there are some people who like Tammy are not huge fans of Tammy Abraham. There are some who do like Tammy Abraham a lot. So I think my question, I guess, to you is: there's no doubt he fits in the Premier League, but is he what Chelsea needs? And are they better off maybe spending the money elsewhere on other positions to reinforce? I mean, they've been linked with left backs pretty much for the vast majority of the last few months.
I think it's interesting with the conversation about Abraham or Werner. I don't think there's much of a discussion in terms of who's the better player. It's clearly Timo Werner as well as Abraham's done this season. I think with Chelsea as well, if they want to build up into being a team that's contending for the title, they need to spend the money on players like this. And again, kind of the move you're referring to as well is Ben Chilwell to Chelsea, which they're kind of touting for like 40, 50, 60 million pounds. Which again, if you're looking for value for money in terms of the Werner deal versus potentially what they'd have to pay for someone like Chilwell, is quite a stark comparison. So that's interesting. I think what will be interesting next year with Chelsea is where they stack up against teams like City and Liverpool. If you look at the front three that they could potentially have, they could have Ziyech, Pulisic, and Timo Werner, which when you compare it to the likes of kind of Salah, Mane and Firmino at Liverpool, it's a really interesting kind of comparison. And it's a team that Lampard will definitely be looking to be good on the counter-attack. And again, if Werner's drifting into the left channel, it kind of makes sense that I think Chelsea could be really exciting to watch next year.
Yeah, no doubt. They've got quite the attacking force right now. And yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what happens. I don't know, Joe, have you got any thoughts on the move in general? What was when you saw the news kind of break out, what were your thoughts?
I mean, my initial reaction was shock, but it was from Fabrizio Romano, so I knew there was some degree of truth to it, irrespective of how shocking it was. If you're talking about strikers coming into Chelsea, this is far from the most ridiculous move they've made over the last few years. Think about the disaster of Alvaro Morata, the move for Higuain, which didn't even make sense at the time, after how badly he'd failed at Milan. Olivier Giroud, who's fine, done well, but there's a good chance he could be on his way in the summer, so it makes sense to bring someone in. What's interesting about all of these new players, as Luke said, we could have a front three of Ziyech, Pulisic potentially on the right, and Werner down the middle. Is that these are all very diminutive players. These aren't like your 6'4" big strikers. There's no Olivier Giroud in this particular roster of players. And if you're looking at the dynamics, Luke's already compared it to the Liverpool front three of Mane, Salah, Firmino. Again, none of those are particularly physically imposing players either. If you're talking about the composition of this front three, the move of Mateo Kovacic this year as well, kind of becoming a do-it-all midfielder, not exactly like Jordan Henderson, but kind of similar in terms of what he brings to the team. Think about the orchestrator behind him in Jorginho. I think it's fair to say Frank Lampard's taken a lot of inspiration from Jurgen Klopp, and this Chelsea plays very, very differently to what we've seen over the last few years. There's no striker that I can remember at Chelsea in the last 5 years, even Michy Batshuayi, in truth, that reminds me of Timo Werner. As Dami said, not even an out-and-out striker, in truth. I mean, you could deploy him on the wing, much like Pulisic, and he'd do almost as well, dare I say. So this Chelsea team next season, are they going to be up against Liverpool and Man City? Questionable, but it's still a very interesting composition of a team going into next season, and a young team as well.
Yeah, and it's definitely something to keep an eye on. And obviously, this is a project. This is a project for Lampard and Chelsea to figure out over the next few years. So it'll be very interesting to see how that turns out. I know games are just coming to a start, but I do want to just quickly mention. I'll acknowledge, yes, F1 season is coming back with their dates. We will probably cover that later on. But I do want to talk a bit about just because this is a sports show, and I do think this is kind of important. Athletes have obviously been standing up for the Black Lives Matter movement. They've obviously, used their voice as they should. Some have not quite used it as well. I'm thinking Drew Brees in particular. Dami, I just wanted to ask you for your personal viewpoint. What have you made of kind of the athletes' response to this movement, and then also, what did you think about Drew Brees' comments? I don't know if you've seen them or not, but what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, in regards to Drew Brees, I'm not really quite sure what was going through his mind when he said that. And if we're being honest, it's people like him who are possibly, who you could say, are the reason why we have such issues with regards with systematic racism, both in America and in the UK as well. People who decide to be purposely obtuse, who decide to look beyond the actual reasoning as to why someone like Colin Kaepernick is protesting, and decide to be, like I said, obtuse and focus on something completely opposite that will take away much needed attention from the main issues as to why he's protesting. Because we all know the reason why he's kneeling down is not to protest against the American flag itself. It's more to protest against what it represents, which is, racism and discrimination that is rife within the NFL. So in that case, he's made a terrible mistake, and he's definitely deserves a lot of the criticism that he's receiving from various players, even people that are not within the NFL, such as like LeBron James as well. I think on the wider issue as well, yes, it's definitely very good and pleasing to see lots of players coming out and standing up against it as well. They all have a big platform, and it's definitely important that they all use it well. I think some things that I've not really been quite happy to see has more been the reactions of a lot of clubs as well. So I've been seeing a lot of, like, even my club, Chelsea were the worst. I saw them put out a picture of all the players standing in the formation of a H to represent the word human, and was kneeling down. And I'm just thinking, what does that do? Like, seriously, what do they believe that's going to accomplish? Instead of them to be, talking about where they're going to donate money to, what kind of actions they're doing towards increasing the numbers of black members within the boardrooms, talking about how they're going to stop any possible racism from happening, especially within their own fans. And as obviously being a Chelsea fan as well, Chelsea have been involved in a lot of racist incidents with their fans as well. Instead of kind of focusing on that, which is what will tackle this problem, they're here, posting images of the players in the H shape. I mean, I saw Liverpool doing another one of them kneeling down in a circle. I'm just like, what is this? Like, this is just performative. This does absolutely nothing. It's all great and well doing this, but it doesn't fix anything. Show us that you're actually committed to not just diversity but inclusion as well. Because it's not just good enough having a black person in saying, yeah, we've got a black person within our boardroom. Are you actually including that person within the parameters of important discussions as well? Are you making sure there's a pathway for black and other ethnic minorities to be able to work their way up into these high positions? Because at the end of the day, that's what matters. It's not about having them in the middle positions or as gatekeepers or as ticket inspectors, whatever. It's having them in those positions of leadership, because as we all know, representation matters as well. And if we can see more black and ethnic minorities in those positions of leadership, then, like I said, representation matters, and it gives other, young people such as like me possibly more hope that yes, one day I could be in that position. So it's key that they come out and do more things like that, where they're able to be more transparent in terms of their processes and the kind of the demographics that they have within the executive positions. But they're not going to do that. Rather, what they would do is to take a picture of their players standing around a circle and be like, yeah, we oppose racism, when it does absolutely nothing. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on it. Apologies if I went a bit too much, but
No.
That's what I believe. That's what I believe. A lot of these football clubs really should be doing more, rather than just taking these. To me, it's quite stupid pictures of players standing around a circle or making the shape of a H to say we are the human race. Yes, we know we're the human race. Like, what does that do? It does absolutely nothing. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on it. Anyways.
No. I think this is important to. I know the football started, and we'll get back to that in a bit. But I think that was just important to. I think it's important. We have to. It is happening. Sport and athletes are very much trying to put themselves at the forefront, and I think it is incredibly important to recognize and acknowledge. And yeah, it's interesting. I think I don't know. I can't speak for everyone, but I find that the quotes from individual athletes for me are more meaningful than these kind of team
for sure
images and stuff like that. Like, and also seeing pictures of Tyrone Mings at Birmingham, or players who are doing they are doing as they they don't just, it's not just like a statement, they are backing it up per se. And I think that's really powerful and much more it's much more of a powerful message. Joe, Luke, I don't know if you have anything to add on this kind of topic or thing before we move on to back to the football. But what have you have you made anything of the sports or the athletes' response to this movement?
The one that I really just want to shout out very, very quickly is Marcus Rashford. I was very quick to condemn Premier League players for not calling out how badly the Premier League handled the COVID-19 pandemic when it happened. I've got absolutely no criticism for what Marcus Rashford's done ever since the George Floyd killing. I think he's raised in excess of 20 million already for Black Lives Matter related causes, very vocal on social media. As you say, his written messages that mean so much more than these, quite frankly, weird photos that a lot of these clubs have been putting out. Absolute man of the hour in terms of Premier League representation of the issue. And another one, I'll just shout out, we've already talked about Drew Brees and how much he screwed up. His star receiver, Michael Thomas, maybe the best player in the NFL outside the quarterback position, he publicly lambasted Drew Brees about this. So credit to him as well. This is so much more than a team issue.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. And it takes courage to kind of go up publicly and criticize your teammate, but he did that, and Drew Brees recognized that. And obviously we can always get into a big discussion about the NFL and what they've done since the Kaepernick since his protest, but that's like a whole another story for another podcast. So yeah, Luke, I don't know if you have anything to add or before we get back into the football, but I assume on Ball Sport, there's hopefully going to be some content going on to kind of talk about this issue as well.
Yeah, definitely. We've hopefully going to have some articles coming up in the future. One team that I did want to praise, though, is LA Galaxy. So Alexander Katai, his wife posted some really, really inappropriate comments on social media. They were horrific, to be honest. And within a day, they kind of demanded that she take the comments down or they release the player, and they released Alexander Katai from his contact. So I think that was interesting to see where there was a club in America who have actually kind of taken very, very firm steps in stamping this kind of thing out. So I think that's kind of important to acknowledge as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. LA Galaxy did they did the right thing in letting him go, and that's unfortunate for him. But yeah, that's just how. That's the exact response that was needed in that situation. So yeah, apologies for getting very political for a moment there, but I think it was an important thing to go on. Dammy, go for it.
So before we move on, one last thing as well. I think one thing that really kind of grated me as well actually was seeing players like Luis Suarez, John Terry, and Leonardo Bonucci coming out and joining this whole Black Lives Matter / say no to racism movement, when in the periods when it mattered for them to have stood up to racism, in the period where they should have shown the commitment to being against any form of discrimination, in the time when it really was important for them to have stuck up for the black players that they were accused of being racist towards. They didn't. They kept silent. They said no, they didn't do it. They didn't come out with any apology or whatnot. Nothing along those lines of them showing anything that they're committed towards it. But now that it's trendy and it's great to to come out and be against racism, now you see them coming out and saying, yes, we're against we're for Black Lives Matter. I mean, Bonucci has even apologized about what he said to Moise Keane yet, but now he's coming out saying, oh, I'm against racism. I don't know, that just really really annoyed me, because it just kind of seemed to me like these are people who are just jumping on the bandwagon. And I think they know it themselves, because when Suarez and Terry put out the blackout pictures on their Instagram, they made sure to turn off their comments, because they knew they were going to be coming in for a barrage of criticism, complain about why it's now they know they're ready to stick up for black people when it really counted, and when they should have done so, they haven't. So I think it's also important that we kind of call out people who we believe are just kind of doing it for just for performative reason, just jump on the bandwagon, because this is not a trend. This is not something you just come and post on social media and then go away and think you've done your job. This is something that requires actual practical implications, and this is actually something that affects people's lives, and they have to deal with this every single day of their life. So it's for people who could just come on social media, post a picture, and then go away and think, yeah, I've done my job. I don't know, it just doesn't sit right with me as well. So yeah, that's my final take on it, but we can move on to the games now.
No, I again, like I think this is an important thing to bring up. I know obviously people, maybe people are watching because we're doing coverage, but I think this is an important thing that's going on right now, and we definitely have to acknowledge it. And I think, yeah, I'm very, very thankful to everyone for contributing to that. That was a very, insightful and very great conversation just there. So yeah, we will get back to the football. So I'll just give everyone a bit of time to kind of get themselves back into the commentary. And apologies to anyone who thought, who may, I can assure you no goals have come through to my knowledge over the last 15 minutes or so. So you wouldn't have missed much, but yeah, I think that was an important conversation we had to have, and with the platform that we have. So I'll do a quick score update, and then we'll come by each person. I have no idea how much they've been watching since we had that discussion, but yeah, I'll just come back to them and just get their thoughts on the second half and what they're hoping to see. So RB Leipzig lead 1-0 at home to Paderborn, thanks to Patrick Schick's goal. In the big marquee game, Bayern Munich are 3-1 up away at by Leverkusen at the Bay Arena. A quick turnaround, a 3-goal turnaround in the first half after Leverkusen took the lead. Mainz lead 1-0 away at the Commerzbank Arena, away at Eintracht Frankfurt, thanks to Niakate's goal before half time. And in the fourth game, Dusseldorf still they've not been able to get an advantage from that sending off for Hoffenheim. It's still 1-1 there. In that game. So let's jump to Luke James. Let's jump to Joe Spagnoli and talk about Dusseldorf Hoffenheim, the game we just mentioned. Joe, I have no idea how much you've seen of the game since it kind of kicked off from the halftime, but I'll just give you this question first. What do you expect from this second half? Do you expect Dusseldorf to keep pushing on for that second goal? Or do you expect the game to, maybe because it was such an intense game, maybe the intensity might drop off? What are you expecting?
I feel like one way or the other there will be a winner, but the truth is that Hoffenheim have had 2 opportunities already this half to take the lead and have bottled both of them. So the first occasion, Robert Skov, who I mentioned I'd be keeping in a special eye on earlier, comes into the box from the right-hand side, and it's basically a breakaway. There's only one centre-back, which is Hoffmann, on a yellow card. In between him and the fellow breaking striker, Israeli striker Munes de Boer, the man who scored for Hoffenheim in the first half. Skov had the opportunity, although it would have meant stopping his run and going on to his left. He could have squared it to De Boer, but takes the shot on himself, and it is an embarrassing miss over the crossbar, very, very close to the Dusseldorf goal. So Hoffenheim blowing one chance, and then a few minutes later, someone who seems to be drifting into the middle an awful lot for a wing-back. You've got Posh, who's now moved more into a defensive position apparently, but he was running forward straight down the middle. Again, Hoffmann, the centre-back for Dusseldorf, is on a yellow card, can't go in for the challenge for fear of getting sent off and making it 10 men versus 10. But about 5 yards before he reaches the box, I'm not kidding, Posh's shoe falls off his left foot. You can see his sock getting filthy on the grass, running down, so his pace has gone immediately, but he doesn't take a shot, he doesn't square it to anyone, he keeps in possession of the ball, with the hope that either Hoffmann goes in for a challenge or something else. What happens is he ends up on the edge of the box, clearly trying to win a free kick, and makes what is so blatantly either making the most of minimal contact or a flat-out dive. Hoffenheim wasting 2 chances to go ahead. I imagine Alfred Schroeder is furious. Although I have some news for you. Hasn't come in yet. Apparently Hoffenheim have taken the lead, and it's just gone in right now. A wonderful squaring into the centre of the box, and the goal comes in from Zuber, who's been moved into a slightly more advanced position in the second half. TSG Hoffenheim lead away from home at the Esprit Arena. A fantastic finish into the bottom right corner, flat grounded shot, no chance for the goalkeeper Kastermeier to save it. Really improving play in the second half, Hoffenheim. They've had those couple of chances I've talked about already. They made it count this time, but again, it's a ball from out wide, going into the centre, bypassing the Dusseldorf centre-backs. Clear shot for Zuber. It's a goal. 2-1 Hoffenheim.
And we talked about how Dusseldorf had been, taking the ascendancy in the first half, and then you mentioned Hoffenheim had a few chances before that goal went in. So is this, them taking the lead now, was it expected? Is this going against the grain of where you thought this game was trending? What's your response to kind of seeing that goal go in?
I don't feel like it's against the grain of the game in the second half. Hoffenheim, as I said, definitely stepping it up. The assist for Zuber's goal, incidentally, Robert Skov, he's been moved over to the left-hand side. Brilliant pass through the middle. He's having a good game, actually, with the exception of bottling that chance earlier. A couple of substitutions just quickly. It's Hoffenheim making the changes. Elas Bebu, the striker, replacing Christoph Baumgartner. So after scoring their second goal, Hoffenheim going attacking, but Zuber has now just come off in favour of the right wing-back, Pavel Kadrabek, the Czechian right fullback. So again, formation changes coming in from Alfred Schroeder, the Dutch manager. A really interesting dynamic in the second half. I imagine the game's going to change hands. Maybe we will see another goal one way or the other. Fortuna Dusseldorf don't look bad by any means. Hoffenheim currently in the ascendancy, and a yellow card just confirmed for the ex-Brighton defender Markus Suttner of Fortuna Dusseldorf. So right now, Dusseldorf picking up yellow cards, but Hoffenheim, crucially, picking up a goal on the road.
Yeah, and we will, as you said, if there is another goal of that or something of that sort, we'll come back to you for sure. But that is a game that is very much live and very much still on a tightrope in terms of a metaphor there. So we will see what happens. We will come back to you, Joe, when if anything happens. And we'll talk to Luke James, who has been watching Leipzig Paderborn, a 10th Leipzig against Paderborn. What have you seen a change in the second half from the tactics of the bottom club? Have they kind of gone out to attack Leipzig now that they know they have a man advantage, or has Leipzig been in cruise control, shall we say?
Paderborn a bit better in the second half. They're getting their wing-backs much higher up the pitch, which is good to see. It's kind of Laurent Jans on the right-hand side for Paderborn. He's getting up higher. But the thing is with Paderborn, when they're in possession, the wing-backs clearly, kind of based on how they've been playing this year, aren't used to getting into the final third. So they kind of get into above the halfway line, and they kind of start playing inside, and the play starts to slow down. A substitution for Paderborn. Sven Michel came on for Stroni Mamba, which was a strange decision really, because Mamba had been playing quite well, and after just a couple of minutes of Michel being on the pitch, the striker for Paderborn, he had a really good chance. He broke through the lines. It was kind of an opportunity to square the ball across the face of the goal, and he's totally messed it up. He played it right behind his strike partner, and the play came to nothing. So Paderborn had a couple of decent kind of looks at goal, but they've not really produced any kind of major shots or anything like that. In terms of what Leipzig are doing, Adams is looking really, really impressive. I think he's been one of the better. There's a contingent of American players in the Bundesliga. He's definitely one of the better ones. But yeah, Leipzig are comfortable. Timo Werner is now leading the line on his own because Schick came off for Haustenberg, so they're kind of settling down a little bit now. Leipzig, it's more of a 4-4-1 formation as it is at the moment. But yeah, I think Paderborn, if they're going to score, they need to do it soon, because the more bodies they commit forward, the more likely Timo Werner is going to get in. He's got an opportunity here. There was it's going to be a goal. He's missed. No, so what happened there was a ball was played over the top. The Paderborn defender won the ball quite comfortably. He then tried to play a back pass to the goalkeeper. It was James Collins-esque, where the back pass just didn't have enough weight on it, and Timo Werner's just about got on the end of it. It was then from a really, really tight angle over on the right-hand side of the penalty area. Werner skipped past the goalkeeper, and it's only just missed wide of the left-hand post. So yeah, that was a really good opportunity for Werner to put the game out of reach.
Yeah. I mean, if things go as they are, Leipzig will get the job done, obviously. But 1-0 is a dangerous scoreline, and you'd think that they'd want to go for second. And as for Paderborn, well, they need, they need to, I guess, really step it up in the last 20 minutes or so. So yeah, thanks for that, Luke, for that update. We'll come back to you if anything happens. We'll now come back to the other game, and I believe there's been a goal in your game, Dammy. Is it
Yes.
Bayern on cruise control now? They are firmly in control of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the main man. He's gotten his customary goal. It's Robert Lewandowski. And again, this comes from like another turnover of possession from Leverkusen, and it's a shame because it comes from Tapsoba, who's probably been Leverkusen's best player this game, actually, and for quite a number of games that I've watched him. So he plays a loose pass into I think Thomas Muller. Bayern get the ball back, and the ball finds its way to Serge Gnabry. He tries to play a low cross into the path of Muller, but it gets blocked. The ball rebounds back to Thomas Muller. The man, like I said, he's had a fantastic season. The ball comes back to him. He plays in a lovely ball into the box first time, and here comes the 6 foot plus Lewandowski with some momentum on him. He comes running in and just powers his header into the bottom corner, and he makes it 4-1. And I think that means Thomas Muller might have just broken the record for most assists in a Bundesliga season. I'm not completely sure, so you might have to correct me on that. But yeah, I think that could be his 20th or 21st assist. So he might have either equaled it, actually, I think, with Kevin De Bruyne, but I'm not too sure. But he's more than, I mean, if he hasn't equaled it now, I'm sure by the end of the season, because they still have, maybe 4 or 5 games to go, I'm sure he would probably break the record very soon. But yes, it's 4-1 to Bayern now, and I think that's game done and dusted here.
Yeah, I found a news article that I think last week he equaled it. So then by default now he has got the best. He is the most ever assists in the season. So, and Lewandowski keeps scoring. That's his 30th Bundesliga goal, I think, for the season. I need to double check that one. Yeah, this season. So that's sensational. Definitely, we talk about strikers who can improve a team. He definitely can in whatever team you put him in. I mean, you watch Bayern, and if they're dismantling a top 4 team 4-1 away, they're very difficult to stop, aren't they? They're just a very good team. They're just rolling. They are just rolling at the moment.
No, they have been. I mean, I must say, Hansi Flick has done an incredible job. After I think he's won every game he's been part of for Bayern, apart from one game. I think one loss, I believe. Yeah, but the rest, it's been a win for him. I think since they lost to, I'm not quite sure, a team in December, they've won, I think, 16 out of the last 17 games, which is obviously just incredible form as well. I think the best thing he's also done as well, he's been able to reintegrate players who were possibly on the fringes and weren't being involved that much under Niko Kovac. So, thankfully to him, he's been able to bring out the best of what do you call his name? And Thomas Muller, of course. Same with Jerome Boateng as well. Two players who were believed to not have a future at Bayern anymore, but they seem to be back in the main frame. He's done some really lovely and tactical decisions as well. Being able to shift Alaba to centre back, which has now freed up the opportunity for obviously the teenage sensation that is Alphonso Davies. Is this another chance for a goal? It's Muller. It's swinging. No, not quite. But yeah, then bring up that kind of reshuffle has allowed them, Alphonso Davies to show what he can do. Okay, Leverkusen on the attack. Is it Aranguiz? No, the attack is kind of held up. Also, he's done really well in playing Joshua Kimmich as well, taking him from that right back position. Now playing CDM as well. He's managed to even get the best out of Serge Gnabry as well. He's now scoring goals and making assists on a more regular basis as well. So yeah, no, he's done really well in terms of being able to find the perfect kind of formation / personnel for his team, as well as bringing out really good form in a lot of his players as well. I mean, if we're looking at in terms of personnel, you'd probably say Bayern actually have I would say they have probably the strongest squad in the whole of Europe. I believe they at least almost like every position there's at least two very, very good players there. So yes, definitely this could just be the year for the Champions League as well. And obviously they will possibly have more of a what do you call it, an advantage in this year's Champions League, because obviously the Bundesliga started a lot earlier as well, which means they'll be able to have racked up a lot more games, a lot more fitness, and more importantly, a lot more match fitness as well. So who knows, by the time the knockout stages of the Champions League comes back, who knows, that could turn out to be quite of a pivotal kind of aspect in terms of deciding who will become this year's European champions. So yes, we'll wait and see, but I believe they have a very good chance of possibly winning their first Champions League since 2013.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the table now, they're 9 points clear of Leipzig, who are in second, which is insane considering the title race was so short when we came back from the break, and now they've just opened it up so easily. And yeah, they've shown it today, and like you said, they'll be considered front runners for the Champions League, and they're in a very luxurious position. I mean, if you bring in Coutinho on loan and you can afford to leave him on the bench, that is quite the luxury that many teams would love to have. So yeah, they're in a very strong position, and yeah, we'll see if they can score more. If they can, and they certainly have the potential to score more. I mean, they've got 90 goals this season, which is astonishing. So yeah, we will keep an eye on that. And when you think about Lewandowski, he's got 30 Bundesliga goals, so he's got a third of their 90, which is insane. But we will come back to you, Dami, if there are more goals to come, probably from the away side than the home side, but we shall see. Yeah, that is astonishing to think about when you think about Bayern Munich and their dominance. And obviously Dortmund later in action tonight, they play Hertha Berlin in a couple of hours or so, but and an informed Hertha Berlin side as well, as Luke Edwards has watched throughout several weeks for us. So they have a tough game in their hands, but it's very hard to see Bayern drop points in the form that they are in. So let's have a quick update for you from the Frankfurt Mainz game. Mainz still 1-0 up with about 15 minutes or so to go. A disallowed goal happened, and I believe that was in favor of Mainz, rather in favor of Frankfurt. So Mainz had a disallowed goal, but not a whole lot has been happening in that game to note. But a big win for Mainz on the table. If they hold on, they will. They are currently in 15th, and it will take them 4 points clear of Fortuna Düsseldorf, and as we've seen with Jose Manuoli, they are trailing now 2-1 at home. So it could be a big result for Mainz, definitely at the bottom of the table. So with about 15 minutes or so left in the game, so we'll come round. We'll come round to everyone to get a sense of what maybe, hopefully, if there is going to be a chance of any last 10-minute drama or so. Less so in the marquee game of Leverkusen Bayern. I think we can safely assume Bayern are going to win that. And in fact, Mainz have doubled their lead, so I will update that score sheet and the goal tally before we come to everyone else. Yeah, let's keep that off. And I'm looking at the goal scorer. It is Marlong. It is Kund Marlong, who I believe is the sub. He's a substitute who's come on. Yes, he is. He has come on. He has surely put the game beyond Eintracht Frankfurt, who are they're an interesting team. Obviously, Europa League semi-finalists last season. Had some big departures, and Frankfurt are a very interesting team to watch at the moment in terms of their kind of up-down form. But right now they are 2-0 behind. Mainz getting that second goal and surely putting that game to bed in another away win, where home advantage has kind of not gone the way as planned. And speaking of home advantage not going the way as planned, we'll come to Joe Spagnoli, who's watching an away side again doing the job and getting those 3 points away on their travels.
Josh, I think you might have just cursed them. Hoffenheim have just conceded a penalty, have our Nordveit, the offending party, given a yellow card, and it's, the man in form, the captain, Ruven Hennings, standing over it for Fortuna Düsseldorf. Hoffenheim have been so much better in this second half as well. They've really balanced out how they were on the back foot in the first half. It's going to be Hennings versus Ollie Baumann in goal. Definite penalty from what I saw. Can Fortuna Düsseldorf make this level? This would be a crucial goal in their fight against relegation. Currently in the relegation playoff spot, 16th place in the Bundesliga. Hennings, the 4th top scorer in the league. And he scores. Easy penalty. Baumann goes the wrong way, left-hand side of the goal. And crucially, he picks up the ball immediately, running back to the centre circle. Düsseldorf believe they can get a third goal in this game. They made 4 substitutes at the same time only a few minutes ago, taking off players that have done well, like Valon Borussia. He's come off the pitch. Who else have they taken off? Nico Gieselman's come on in favour of Andre Hoffmann, who was the defender booked in the first half. The vice-captain, Adam Bodjak, booked in the first half. He's been replaced by Alfredo Morelos. A lot of changes being made in this game in the second half by Düsseldorf, and Rosler's side, they are now level against Hoffenheim at the Esprit Arena. Game of the day, Josh. What else can I say? Yeah,
and you incredible choice from you, incredible decision making from you. But also, this is now for sure. You look at this game, Düsseldorf. They have a one-man advantage. They now seemingly have the momentum. Do you think they'd be disappointed if they didn't go on to get a win in this game, if they didn't pick up a winner?
I don't know if they'd necessarily be disappointed. Hoffenheim haven't been bad today by any means. They were a little slow in the first half, second half. Absolutely not the case. They are getting forward on attacks quite well. They've also just brought on Andrej Kramaric in favour of the first goal scorer, Minus de Boer. So they are going for it, Hoffenheim. They've made offensive changes in the second half. Game's really heating up. I mean, it's maybe behind closed doors, but the noise is really picking up in the stadium nonetheless, mostly from the players, of course. But the game's really come into life now. I don't honestly think that Rosler can be disappointed with a draw here. Hoffenheim are, in terms of personnel, the superior side. What they will rue is probably the disallowed goal in the first half and the fact that, almost typical of the first half, actually, the first half was ended basically on the 3 extra minutes, despite the fact that Düsseldorf were in possession in the opposition third. Maybe that chance could have led to a goal. Just maybe. But right now, 12 minutes plus injury time to go. I can't say who's going to win this game, Josh. I still feel like we've got another goal on the cards.
Yeah, we will definitely. That game of the 4 games I'm looking at, I think that game is going to yield some late drama for sure. So we would definitely keep an eye on that. Thanks, Joe, for that update, and we'll come back to you when there's something going on. And yeah, that is the game. That is the game right now. It's Düsseldorf 2-2 at home to Hoffenheim. With more to come, surely. We'll come to Luke James and talk about Leipzig Paderborn, a game that I think many would have predicted a 3-0, 4-0 win for Leipzig. But Luke, I think it's clearly not worked out that way. Do you think is it the red card? Has that been the impact of the red card to kind of create a lull in this game, should we say?
Yeah, the red card's been important in terms of how many players Leipzig are willing to commit forward in the transition. I think that's been important. But the thing that's really struck me in this game, and to be fair, when they went 1-0 up, I did say that it could kind of finish 1 or 2-0. It didn't look like it was going to be much of a goal fest. The thing that struck me is Leipzig, despite the fact they're kind of renowned for the high press, for like winning the ball high up the field and that kind of thing, they look so comfortable just sitting back, inviting the pressure on, and they've got the players to do so. And the issue as well that Paderborn are coming up against is that Leipzig have such kind of a focus and are so quick on the transition that even if Paderborn do commit lots and lots of players forward, have good possession in the final third, Leipzig will win the ball, play the ball over the top to Timo Werner, and the counter-attack is always on. So even when Paderborn are in good positions, it's always a case of, well, it only takes one moment to turn this from defence into attack for Leipzig, and that is kind of hampering what Paderborn have been able to do. But yeah, as you say, it's not been the most kind of thrilling of matches, which I've got to say I'm used to as a West Ham fan. But yeah, Leipzig look worth their position at the moment.
Yeah, and this is their games sometimes where it's not really as comfortable as it is. Sometimes it is a bit of more of a workman-like attitude that they need, and certainly they've shown that. And do you think, because we kind of, and I don't want to speak for like a lot of people here, but some people tend to kind of associate Leipzig with their kind of fast-paced counter-attacking style. We saw that against Spurs in the Champions League. Do you think this game has shown a different side to them, that they're equally as comfortable as dominating possession of the ball, which I know Nagelsmann has been working on that with them? That was a criticism of them last season. And do you think now they look like a really good team, in being in that they have two different approaches that they can rely on and excel in?
Yeah, definitely. I think the difference as well with this game is it's just in terms of the line of engagement. Because they're winning the game, they don't need to press that high, so they can just sit within their own half. And even when they're doing that, they're still creating space in behind the defence anyway. So it's a case of just attacking in a different way. So there are teams that do this well, and the classic example that people point to when they talk about counter-attacking is the year where Mourinho's Inter Milan won the treble, and the champion game at the Nou Camp, where they basically played so defensively that Samuel Eto'o was playing as kind of an auxiliary left back. You have teams where they can sit back so deep, and then you can just bring counter-attacks, and then that's how you build your play. And Leipzig, given the way that they kind of counter-press and given the way that they never try to retain possession, this is always going to be something that they're quite comfortable doing. If they were in this situation against someone like Bayern Munich or Borussia Dortmund, it would be a different story, because Paderborn aren't particularly Paderborn's movement in the final third is pretty slow. It's pretty kind of static almost. And the way they're attacking as well, defensive midfielders just sit and aren't looking to kind of rotate through the midfield. So against the better team, against teams in Europe, I think Leipzig will have more issues. But it shows as well with a team like Chelsea, if Timo Werner does go there, that his pace, regardless of how you set up, whether you're setting up to play on the front foot or whether you're setting up to soak up the pressure and then spring counter-attacks, is going to be so important for them next year.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will. I mean, I might be cursing this game, but I don't expect a lot more to come from this game. And I feel like that's your opinion as well. But we shall see. Maybe Paderborn somehow come up with a miracle equalizer, if you like. But Luke, we'll come back to you, and you raise a good point, Luke, there as well. This is probably something I should have said, but we should quantify that the Werner deal is not officially happening. In fact, I'm just reading some quotes from a Leipzig official here. He said, we don't pay attention to the daily speculation. We haven't agreed an exchange yet, nor has the club sent a transfer contract. We have nothing to report. Basically saying that Timo Werner has done some negotiating with Chelsea. Leipzig have not done any negotiating with Chelsea yet. So that's something definitely for Liverpool fans to maybe hold on to. Maybe that it could still go in their favour. And we obviously, they were put off by the transfer fee from Leipzig's point of view. So maybe Chelsea will find themselves in a similar stumbling block. We shall obviously see, and we'll come. Okay, let's go. We'll go to Dami and talk about Leverkusen Munich. Speaking of kind of giants of football at the moment, and I get the feeling, Dami, that the game is kind of dropped in terms of intensity. I feel like it's Bayern are pretty settled and pretty happy to see this game out.
Yeah, no, that's literally exactly what it is. I mean, at times Bayern basically just play keep ball, like more or less on the edge of their own box, to be honest with you. And it's almost kind of like Leverkusen, have accepted their fate. To be honest, I think they accepted their fate from the first half after they conceded that third goal. They kind of knew it was a bit of a long journey from there, to be honest with you. But yes, no, it's been quite dull. Not much has really happened. I mean, Leverkusen had one or two chances. They had a really good chance. It was a 2-on-1. RB was who played in down the left hand side. I think Alaria was there on the far the far post, waiting for either a low ball or maybe a ball over the top. But Diaby, his decision making kind of let him down there. I mean, I think he tries to play a dig ball over the head of Boateng to find Alaria, but he doesn't connect with it well, and it kind of just falls. The cross goes into the path of Manu, and he tips it over. But yeah, apart from that, there's been a few substitutions. So Gnabry has come off for Thiago, and they've also just taken off Alphonso Davis, and on comes the previously injured Lucas Hernandez as well. I think Leverkusen made a change as well, but I wasn't able to see who that was as well. So yeah, both teams are basically just waiting for the final whistle to more or less be blown now. 5 minutes remaining, and it remains 4-1 to Bayern.
Yeah, and I just want to ask you, because we all saw the Kai Havertz not being ruled out with a muscle problem. Maybe some of us thought, this is probably a straightforward Bayern Munich win. Although I think most of us still thought maybe there's a chance. But I think it sounds like, from what you've seen, that Leverkusen's issues had nothing to do with Kai Havertz not being able to play. In fact, like, there's a lot more than just him not being there per se. There's a lot more going on at the back that they need to work on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry, I can't. But I'm sorry to say, but the defending at times has been quite atrocious. In this game, it just kind of baffles me. Is that they'd had like a few few near misses. Or is this a goal? No, not quite. Nearly a goal for Leverkusen. It's Diaby again. Actually, he's going down his favorite left hand side. He does a fake shot to get past Boateng, pulls it back across the edge of the box where there's no one there, and Alaba was able to clear it. But yeah, as I was saying, no, at times they've played this ridiculous high line, and the things that they're Bayern have gotten in time and time again, and it's almost like they just refuse to learn their lesson. It's like they've seen Bayern get in, they've seen Gnabry have had a chance to nearly score, Muller nearly have a chance to nearly score, but yet, I don't understand what Peter Bosch is doing, but he's not, made a change to address that. It's almost been like, yeah, so let's just keep going and let's just hope that they don't score. Obviously, that's not been the case, because they've managed to score 4 goals, and possibly 2 of them coming due to playing a really high line. So yeah, that's kind of something, that's what's let them down, and I can imagine that's probably what's let them down throughout the rest of the season as well. But there's no shame in losing to Bayern. At the end of the day, they're not the first team to do that, and they certainly will be the last as well. So yeah, these are probably not the kind of games that they were looking to kind of pick up points from anyways.
Yeah. It's definitely a difficult one for Leverkusen, and for those who hoped that we'd see a competitive game, and maybe the free scoring Leverkusen could challenge Bayern, but unfortunately it's not worked out that way. And Bayern look very good. They look very comfortable, as promised. I'm just having a look and seeing if there's any other major. I don't think there's any major scoring storylines going on at the moment. But I have seen. I look at Leverkusen's bench. They brought on I think he's 16-year-old Florian Wirtz. I think that's his name. I think he's 16,
Okay.
17. He looks like I think he's the youngest player to play for them or start for them at least. As he,
Oh, to go.
I mean,
We've got a goal to go for Leverkusen.
oh wow.
Yeah, we've got a goal. Well, we have a consolation goal. It's not really going to do much, but yes, we do have a goal from Leverkusen. So the ball, there's a bit of a ping ball going on in the center circle. The ball falls to Alario. He plays it into Bellarabi, back to Alario. He gets the ball, plays it out to the right wing. I'm not quite sure who's there in the right wing. I think it's the right back, but I'm not quite sure what his name is. But yes, he shows really good composure, fakes to shoot on his right foot, brings it back onto his left foot and just curls it into the far corner. And yeah, it goes in. It's Wirtz actually who scored. So
oh wow.
Yeah, he's there. He's made an instant impact here into the game. So yeah, no, really, really lovely goal from the youngster as well, but obviously just a bit too little, too late to really affect the scoreline here.
Yeah, I was kind of building up that question there. He's a young talent for sure, and he's come on, and I don't think many expected him to do something. But there you go. I mean, has he just come on? Am I right? Is he just?
Yeah, more or less just come on. I mean, I won't lie. This is the first time I'm hearing of him. From you, I've never really heard of him before, but from that goal, he seems like he's got something about him for sure. So yeah, definitely a player that I will have to keep an eye on for in the future.
Yeah, someone who will no doubt may get more game time with the way the league is petering out. Maybe obviously Leverkusen still have a lot to play for, but maybe we might see more game time from him. So we will. We'll come back and catch up with you full time, Danny, for a bit of a summary of the game. And we go now to Leipzig, Paderborn. Luke James, there's a late goal. Again, I think I cursed it by saying I didn't think there was much going to happen, but suddenly we do, and it is the equaliser we thought it was going to happen.
Yep, so it's now 1-1 at the Red Bull Arena. RB Leipzig giving away a really, really sloppy goal off of a corner. So the ball was whipped in. The first ball was cleared. It's come to the edge of the penalty area. Ritter has had a really good shot. It's gone through the bodies in the centre of the penalty area. It's a save that the goalkeeper should really catch in. He parries it straight into the middle of the box. And then Strodig, the centre back, who's been really good for Paderborn defensively, just hammered it home from not too far out. It's probably what Paderborn deserve. They've attacked relatively well, but never really looked too threatening from open play. And in that set piece, a lot of the deliveries have been pretty poor. A lot of them have been too close to the goalkeeper. But this is looking a lot better in the final couple of minutes of Paderborn. They're now attacking again across. I think they're all offside anyway, but it's an easy save. But yeah, Paderborn have got the goal they probably deserve. It puts them on 20 points, so there's still a fair chunk of points away at the bottom of the table, away from the likes of Fortuna Düsseldorf and Werder Bremen ahead of them. Leipzig will kick themselves. It's something that shouldn't have happened, but yeah, going into the last 30 seconds, it looks like this one's going to finish 1-1.
Yeah, and it's I guess Leipzig, we talked about them looking so much in control and so much like they were a professional kind of display and seeing the game out. But there you go. I mean, a last-minute equaliser, and I have no idea how much time there is left. I don't want to say I doubt there's going to be more, but it seemingly is that goal was scored so late. Dare I say that might be one of the last acts of the game. I mean, yeah, I just maybe give a summary of what you've seen, because I think for much of the game, we when we talked about it, it was mainly Leipzig looking pretty much in control. Bear in mind, they did have the red card, but in the end, it looks like Paderborn were able to fashion a chance, and they were clinical enough to take it.
Yeah, definitely. We've just had the full-time whistle, so this one's ended. RB Leipzig 1, Paderborn 1, which is, on reflection, a decent point for Paderborn if they are going to pick up some wins in the coming weeks. In terms of the pattern of play in the second half, Paderborn had more possession in terms of kind of building play, keeping it in midfield. What typically they would do to try and break them down is they'd play the ball out to the wing back, then go inside to the central midfielder, who'd then look outside for the winger, who'd basically quite narrow and try and put the ball into the box. But so many times RB Leipzig looked quite comfortable. They were clearing the ball pretty easily. RB Leipzig would then throw a long ball forwards. Timo Werner would attack, and that was pretty much how the play kind of worked out in the second half. Paderborn looked okay. They don't look like a terrible team. They're probably better than their 20 points suggests that they are. But if you compare them, and I've watched quite a lot of the second division, if you compare them to Arminia Bielefeld, who are top of the table, they're not a particularly great team. Paderborn are probably a similar quality. So if they are relegated, you should expect them to do pretty well next season. But yeah, Paderborn, it was a pretty dull game, if I'm being totally honest. The Leipzig goal was spectacular. The Paderborn goal, I'm just seeing it again for the second time. It's just a shot from the edge of the box. It really should be caught. That's a really, really bad bit of goalkeeping, to be honest. He parries it straight down into Strodik, who is unmarked. And yeah, it's kind of one of those games. It's one of those games where the team is probably going to go down anyway. RB Leipzig probably don't have too much to play for at this point, and I think it's the fair result.
Yeah, disappointing draw certainly for Leipzig today. I'm just going to have a quick flick up the table, but it gives certainly. I mean, it doesn't change the table on much, in fact. So it gives Dortmund a chance to put some distance between them for that second place. And we will see. I mean, that is the late kickoff against Hertha Berlin. We will see. We will come back and do a big kind of 4-panel roundup. But I just want to get some individual game summaries. So we'll come to Joe Spagnoli. And Joe, we were both hoping for some late drama. It didn't seem to come out, but nonetheless a thrilling and entertaining game to watch.
Yeah, one of the best games of football I've seen in a long time, no joke. I was staggered by how good Fortuna Düsseldorf were for most of this game, especially in the last 20 minutes. After getting that equaliser, the pressure just never seemed to stop. I'll throw my man of the match immediately into the hat. Bishakcic did very well in defence for Hoffenheim throughout the day, but there's no question. MOTM goes to Ruven Hennings, the Fortuna Düsseldorf striker and captain, a brace on the day, one of which was a penalty, of course, but absolutely the most important player, drifting out from around the box, playing as a winger in so many occasions, winning balls, a lot of technical skills as well to get shots in, that ultimately the younger striker, David Kovnatski, could not put away for Fortuna Düsseldorf. Hennings protesting to the referee almost at the end of the game, picking up a yellow card. He really did think Fortuna Düsseldorf could win that, and the commentators were saying it as well. Fortuna will see this as two missed points. They dominated the game in the first half and towards the end of the second as well. Of course, you have to talk about Benjamin Hübner sending off in the 9th minute, the captain of TSG Hoffenheim. That definitely changed any game plan that they would have had. But despite how well Hoffenheim played at times today, Düsseldorf do not look like a team that could go down in the Bundesliga. And yet, with the upturn in form of Werder Bremen, with Mainz winning this afternoon, Düsseldorf could very easily fall into that 17th position in the league, which, if that happens at the end of the season, this will be one of the games where they just rue their missed opportunities.
Yeah, it definitely seems like an opportunity gone begging per se. And as for Hoffenheim, I mean, they are basically, their task is to keep pace with Wolfsburg, just keep their noses in front. And a draw may not be the best result, but who knows? I can't seem to remember. I think Wolfsburg they're playing Werder Bremen away, so we'll see what happens tomorrow. But certainly, avoiding defeat is a good start in terms of keeping yourself in the race, and that's all they could have asked for sure. We'll just add everyone, but we'll come to Dami for the last kind of summary of your game. I'll just quickly mention that Mainz did hold on and beat Eintracht Frankfurt 2-0, so that's a big win for them in terms of, as Joe said, keeping them away from the relegation zone. But Dami, we'll come to you finally. A game that it promised goals. We did get a lot of goals, but in the end, it was pretty straight. I mean, it ended up being a straightforward Bayern win.
Yeah, I think the most competitive the game was probably the first maybe 15, 20 minutes before Bayern got the equalizer. Leverkusen was showing a bit of impetus. They were showing that possibly they could do something and, possibly record a shock victory here. But as soon as Bayern got that equalizer, it was almost like they just had the wind kind of just taken out of their sails. And from then on, it was just a Bayern show, more or less. They controlled the game well. They didn't give Leverkusen any sort of like a chance to get like a moment of some momentum or build a head of steam going forward. Bayern were also not fully, but they were more or less clinical, and they took at least, a good percentage of the chances that came their way as well. So yeah, overall, you would say it probably was a routine victory for Bayern, but I mean, really shouldn't have been that way, to be honest, from there, because they had a great start with the early goal, but I don't know what happened. They just weren't able to build on from it. But yes, another victory for Bayern. That takes them to, I think, 4 points clear as well, or no, 8 points clear of Dortmund, I think. So it's only a matter of time before they finally get crowned champions of the Bundesliga for the 8th year in a row.
Yeah, in fact, they are. I'll just quickly correct you. They are 10 points clear. Obviously, Dortmund, if they win tonight, it will go back to 7. So, but nonetheless, a mighty lead for sure. And that will probably do for us. So I'd like to thank Joe, Dami, and Luke for all coming on and taking us through each of the games. We will, obviously, we've got the interview on Wednesday. It'll be on our Facebook page probably, so keep an eye on that. Please tune in, and it'll be a live Q&A as well. So please ask questions as well. Similar to what we did with Nathan Ferguson, there'll be a Q&A. Yeah, and next weekend, we should have something for you. I'll be honest, with the staggered broadcasting schedules, it's going to be an interesting challenge for this Super Saturday stream, but we will come up with something hopefully and get it to you. But yeah, thanks for tuning in today, and hope you have a great week.